What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're taking a look at an absolutely crazy expanded deck piloted by Haruto Fujita in a recent expanded event on play.limitlesstcg.com. I actually saw this deck firsthand because my mom was playing in an expanded event and I saw her play against it, and I knew I had to make a video about it because it's absolutely insane. One note about this deck is it has LUSAMINE in it, which was recently unbanned by TPCI. That ban does not go into effect until March 5th, so if you want to play this deck, it would have to be either in an expanded event that is allowing LUSAMINE or in an unlimited match with friends. It is not currently legal on the PTCGO expanded ladder yet because it does include LUSAMINE. Before we take a look at this deck though, and I do have gameplay following the deck profile, shout out to PotownStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code CELIO for 5% off. So there's a lot to unload with this deck. Also piloting it is fairly difficult, especially not being the person building it. And yeah, so the game that you'll see, I played about 5 games, and I think I just threw the best one I could play that really showed off the deck and how to play it correctly is the one you're going to be seeing after this deck profile. But I'm going to try to touch on what every card does here in this deck profile. If you want to just skip to the gameplay, that's fine too. But there are a lot of interesting things, including, like I said, the 3 LUSAMINE, which are still technically banned in expanded until March 5th, but they were allowed for this tournament that was held this past weekend. So let's talk about the core strategy. The core strategy is you're going to lock your opponent from playing a supporter card with Sableye limitation. Your opponent can't play any supporter cards from their hand next turn. Pretty simple. You're going to lock stadiums with Barrier Shrine from Ninetales. Each player can't play any stadium cards. You're going to lock Black Market Prism into play. When a dark Pokemon that has dark energy is knocked out, that player takes one fewer prize card. So when your opponent knocks out this Sableye that just used limitation, Black Market Prism stops them from taking a prize card. Ninetales stops them from ever replacing that stadium. Black Market is not affected by Field Blower. It is not affected by Faba. Black Market will typically stay in play unless the opponent has something like the Remoraid that can discard a stadium from play, or Marshadow Resetting Hole, which has the ability that removes a stadium from play. Some very niche scenarios can remove Black Market from play, but typically you're going to be able to lock it into play, and your opponent can't Guzma, Lysander, or Boss the Ninetales if you're playing limitation. They can't Pokemon Ranger to remove that because Pokemon Ranger itself is a supporter. So Sableye protects the Ninetales, Ninetales protects the Black Market protects the Sableye. It's pretty neat. There's a 3-2-2 line of this Magnezone with Dual Brains. It has a pretty simple ability that's absolutely nuts. During your turn, you may play 2 supporter cards. Now, this is crazy with LUSAMINE. LUSAMINE put 2 in any combination of supporter and stadium cards from your discard pile into your hand. You're never going to be getting stadium cards back because the only one we play is Black Market, and that goes to the Lost Zone when it's removed from play, so you can never get that back. LUSAMINE can get back a lot of important supporters. It can get back Brock's Grit to refill your deck. It can get back Team Rocket's Handiwork to mill your opponent and progress the game quicker. It can get back itself. It can get back a different LUSAMINE. So every time you LUSAMINE, you're going to get back the other LUSAMINE and 1 supporter card. So you always have a LUSAMINE for the following turn. It can get Gladion, which gets something out of your prize card. So if you're 1 Black Market, if your 1 Black Market Prism is prized, you can get it with Gladion. If your Mr. Mime's prized and you need to protect from bench damage, you can get it with Gladion. If the Darkrai GX is prized, you can get it with Gladion. We'll touch on Darkrai GX in just a moment. So a card in here, Nanu. Now, Nanu is a supporter card that has not been used a lot. Choose a basic dark Pokemon in your discard pile. Switch it with one of your Pokemon in play. Any attached cards, damage counters, etc. remain on the new Pokemon. This is typically used to set up Pokemon that take a lot to be set up. So accelerate a bunch of energy to something on the board that replace it with a dark Pokemon like Sableye, Tyranitar, Umbreon, Darkrai that needs a lot of energy. This is used to essentially have infinite Sableye. You use the Restoration from Darkrai GX to put it from the discard pile to your bench and attach a dark energy from the discard pile to it, and then you Nanu that into a Sableye. So the Sableye from your discard goes where the Darkrai was, and it gets that energy, and you have infinite Sableye essentially. Other than that, we have Girafarig to remove threats, so you can even just Girafarig up your opponent's Guzmas or Lysander or bosses away, and then you get away with turns where you can whiff the limitation early on, or even if there's a card that you see that your opponent can use to get rid of black market, like a Marshadow resetting hole that they can get back with Rescue Stretcher or something, you can use Girafarig to get lost it. Something that deals bench damage and your Mr. Mime is prized, you can get lost it so they can't stretcher it back to then hit Ninetales while it's on the bench. So Girafarig is just pretty useful. Zacian and Oricorio GX are draw support. Jirachi searches out a stadium card, supporter card, my bad, and it's also searchable by Level Ball. Lily's Polka Doll is a good card to have on the bench to send out when something gets knocked out. Scoop Up Net's pretty useful to just move things around, clear its bench space. Scoop Up Net can also pick up Jirachi EX, since Scoop Up Net only says it can't pick up V or GX. Rare Candies to get down the Magnezone. Rosa is really good after something's knocked out to help yourself get set up. As is yeah, as his teammates for that same purpose. So you can either win just by chaining the Darkrai, Nanu, Sableye, LUSAMINE every turn, limitation, your opponent can't play supporters, and just do that until your opponent mills out of their deck. You can use Handiwork to make it quicker. You can also just Guzma up something that your opponent can't retreat without their own Guzma if they're not playing Switch or Escape Rope, or they've already exhausted those things, and then you just lock it up in the active and just say limitation until the game's over. You can even just use that strategy to make the game be over faster if you're short on time, because you can LUSAMINE for LUSAMINE Handiwork, play Handiwork, then next turn LUSAMINE for LUSAMINE Handiwork, play Handiwork, etc., and try to mill your opponent out. So let me know if you have any questions about how this deck is played. But I do have, like I said, a video showing myself piloting it versus Colossal, and I do go for the stalling up a Pokemon with more than one retreat strategy in that matchup. I don't go for the cycling infinite Darkrai GX in that matchup, which is definitely why I wanted to explain it in depth in this deck profile. So I do hope you enjoyed this deck profile and you enjoyed the gameplay that follows it. Like I said, if you have any other questions about this deck, there's definitely things I might have missed because I did not build this deck. I'm not a master of this deck, but I do think I can handle it fairly well, and I think I show it off okay in the game that I'm about to show you all. So hope you enjoyed it, enjoyed the gameplay. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already for daily Pokemon TCG content. And I'll see you next time here on Celios Network. Here comes the gameplay.